And there was a book I was reading, and I have to get into the name of the book, but it talked about how most folks don't succeed because they give themselves an ability or an avenue to get out if it doesn't work out. You already go in at least 95% of the way in, not 100% of the way in. You have to be fully committed to whatever it is that you do. Otherwise, you run the risk of it not succeeding.
Good Friday, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Weekly Bustle. Today, I am back again in the States after doing a short trip around the world, and I am joined by George. George is a financial constructor by name, and what that means is something related to finance, which I don't want to spoil. So I would like George to directly tell us about that. So I don't wanna introduce George rather than George introducing himself. So we're gonna be delving into finance, into why is it important, how it affects us, because it's very easy to say it's money and it's tangible and you don't need to worry about it, but it does affect you. Why does it affect you? How can you put safeguards and system in place? Those are the kind of conversation I'm looking forward to today with George. So George, how are you doing?
Hey, doing well. I appreciate you. Appreciate you so much for this invite. You came highly referred as somebody, we needed to connect with, and I'm looking forward to this time today and giving some value to your listeners.
Great. Thank you so much. Why don't we start directly there, George? What is the financial constructor?
Yeah. So the financial constructor is a name I came up with. Actually, it was my wife that came up with the name, and sounded kind of catchy. And it's all about construction, right? So construction. All of us are very familiar with construction and building from the ground up. So essentially, is this it's a journey of us building our financial freedom. And a lot of us aspire financial freedom, aspire to have that lifestyle. What financial freedom means to everyone varies, right? Everybody has a different definition of what financial freedom is, but they want it, but they don't know how to go about it. And so what our goal is to construct, basically to build a bridge between where people are today and ultimately where they aspire to be, which is their financial freedom. And so we do that through a program. We have a coaching program where we do one-to-one coaching, dedicated. It's usually a 12-month course. We go over our 6 fundamental pillars, which is the fundamental of our entire program, which is expense management, budgeting, savings growth, net income growth, investing, and succession planning. So those are our 6 fundamentals. So on the one-to-one coaching over a 12-month period, we go over all those 6 fundamentals in very, very, very great detail. Aside from that, though, for those that want to be part of a community, we believe that community is power. There's power in community, power in people getting in together. Right? If you look in historical time, the strongest powerhouses in the world were always part of a tribe, a colony, a community, and it's in community you find power. And so what we created was a financial community called the Financial Freedom Builders. And basically, it's a community of like-minded people pursuing financial freedom, getting together, connecting together via a dedicated app. It's a private app where we give a lot of financial literacy about information. We talk about investing opportunities. We host a monthly financial class where people can get some added knowledge and information, and it's month-to-month membership as well. So just some things that we're doing to help provide added value to people that are looking for financial freedom.
That's great. So you are working in the financial, I would say, financial consulting or financial freedom space. So there's a lot of questions, right? The first easiest question for me is why, George? Why finance?
Yeah, so there's a lot there, man. There's a lot there. I would say the first thing I would say is it all started with the fact that I care about people. That's number one. I've always, from such a young age, I've always cared about the well being of just people that are close to me, and people that I just meet. You and I have had great conversations on outside of here, and I've had things in mind that we've talked about just because I just genuinely care about people. So that's the core of why. But number two, I care about people's financial freedom and their financial future. And quite frankly, the gap between those that are wealthy and those that aspire to be wealthy, the gap in between, a lot of people believe it's money. People think that the between the wealthy and those that are not wealthy is money is the difference. And it's not. It's information, man. Information is what gets you money to help you become wealthy. And so what folks don't have is the information. So if we can provide folks information, that's kind of how we usher this forward. And so several years back, I remember, especially during the pandemic, a lot of folks were shooting me text messages, asking me financial questions. They knew I had a finance background, and I went to school for finance. And I remember asking my wife. I said, I'm not understanding why, I'm getting so many different questions from different people around the same time. It was just very random. And she said something so powerful to me. It was so powerful, Ahad. She said, they want to hear what you have to say about the topic. And it sounds very simple, but it's very powerful because they could have went to so many different people. They could have went to YouTube. They could have went to a podcast. They could have went to a financial advisor, but they wanted to hear what I had to say about it. And so at that point, I responded to everybody based off of the situation, responded. And one, response was a thank you and a thank you and a thank you and a thank you. And a few weeks later, I would get responses back from different people. Oh my God, thank you so much. That was exactly what I needed to hear. The situation changed. This is, I'm going in the right direction, et cetera, et cetera. So now I'm getting the feedback from the recommendation. And then it was, hey, you should do something about this. You should do something about this. You should do something about this. You should do something about it. You should start something. You should do something. And that's kind of where it started. It was just motivation from folks that I genuinely cared about and gave good information because I cared. And then it was that motivation that started this program.
I really love what you say. So there are two digressions. Okay, we do want to stay into the financial space of financial literacy, but I also want to talk a little bit about starting your own business. How
Mm.
scary is that, George? And how did you manage it? Did you go all in, or did you do it on the side, like a side hustle, till it became something, or do you do it still as a side hustle? How can people who want to start new things do it financially? You can say financially well.
Great question, Ahad. That's a great question. This is actually a great topic and one that you and I can sit on for a little bit. So there are two ways to go about it, right? One way is, you mentioned, going full time and just this becomes your thing and you pursue it all in, all out, whatever the case may be. Then you have as you mentioned, a side hustle where it just becomes another stream of income. Regardless of both of those aspects and those avenues, there's one common denominator. You have to be all in whatever you do. All in. And all in on your side hustle, all in on your main job. You have to be all in because it doesn't work if you're not all in. There was a book I was reading, and I have to get into the name of the book, but it talked about how most folks don't succeed because they give themselves an ability or an avenue to get out if it doesn't work out. You already go in at least 95% of the way in, not 100% of the way in. You have to be fully committed to whatever it is that you do. Otherwise, you run the risk of it not succeeding. So with that being said, now when you build something from scratch, there's a lot of external factors you have to keep in mind, right? Give you an example. I'm married and I have three boys. I have a 7-year-old, a 4-year-old, and a 3-year-old. And by the way, it's my treasures of my life. Other than my parents, I love my parents to death. They're the cornerstones of my life. But my wife and my kids, those are the treasures of my life. But um, with that comes with a lot of responsibility, right? There's a lot of mouths to
Yeah.
feed.
Yeah.
There are obligations and whatnot. And so, as I mentioned, this program I started about 3 years ago. So I have a 7-year-old. So that means that before this, I was already doing something. And so I was a healthcare and am a healthcare administrator. I've been for about 10 to 12 years, overseeing hospitals and supporting a medical group that's growing. I've been very involved in it. It's paid me really well. It's allowed me to pay the bills and take care of my family. But as I've started building this thing out 3 years ago, I became all in on what I'm doing, right? But this is a mentality thing, right? This is something I would give to you and to anybody that's listening or aspiring to start a business. It's your mentality. You change your mentality when you're trying to start a business from the ground up. You may have a main job, something you do outside of what you're doing now. Let's say you started a cooking business, a coaching business, a podcast. You may do this on the side for now, and you have a main job. Most people say, "Oh, what do you do for a living?" Right, your identity. They may say, "Oh, I'm a healthcare administrator for a company, but on the side, I do financial coaching." What you've done essentially is you've created an identity that this thing is not your thing. You understand what I'm saying now? That is not your thing because you're still tied to what is paying you the most money. Once I learned the importance of identity, I then evolved and started saying that I am a financial coach, but my job in healthcare administration supports the funding for my business. And now you become associated that this is your main thing. It may not be your main source of income today, but this is what I'm all in on. And these other things that I'm doing is supporting me financially to move forward. And that's how you evolve because you start changing your mentality that you are a podcaster, you are a financial coach, you are that baker, you are that CEO, you are that thing that you want to become. And you become identified with that and not what's necessarily paying you the most money.
I really love this because I struggle with this, right? So I also have like an agile coaching thing on the side, but my main job is as a data consultant, right?
That's right.
So I try to say agile coach, but I feel embarrassed because I'm just putting money into the business. Nothing is coming out of it. So I'm a data coach or I'm a data consultant, and I also teach and do agile coaching on the side.
Right.
And I can imagine why that would make someone feel like, you know what? If I was looking for an agile coach, I would not really go for you because it doesn't feel like you know what you're doing
Right.
because it's not your identity. So I completely understand. I've never done it before. I will try. I have a lot of networking events coming up. I'll see how we can say agile coach with or doing data consultancy on the side
That's right.
that's supporting my main business.
That's exactly right, man. That's exactly right. There was a story of a man that went to a lunch and he had met somebody through a family friend, and they all went to a lunch, and the family friend was there, and they had just met for the first time that day, right? And they asked him, "What are you doing? What do you do for a living? What do you do?" His main job, he had a main job, but then he had a passion that he was building from the ground up, right? It wasn't his business, it was his passion, right? And he froze for a second because he didn't know what exactly to answer. And then he ended up responding that his main job, is what he did for a living. The pause, man, that pause there is the struggle between what you're trying to build and then ultimately what's right now currently holding you down from building what you're trying to build. And if you don't identify yourself as with your passion and what you're building, then you're not all in, which means you give yourselves a way out, which means that if the data or the life coaching doesn't work out, I can always go back to being the data guy, or I can always go back to healthcare, or I can always go back to working at the local supermarket, right?
Yeah.
But it's not giving yourself the way out. It's being 100% in on what is that you're trying to do. And then people around you will affiliate you with your passion. You are that coach. You are that
It's it,
data person.
It's so difficult, to be honest, George, because it sounds easy on paper what you're saying. I completely 100% agree with you, but I've done hundreds of things, right? And this is another aspect of the question I want to build towards. Like, it's I've done so many things, right? It could be trading in the stock market and building a business there. It could be trying out restauranteering. It could be this thing. It could be so many things I try because I always believed I have one stable job. Let's try to risk money right now that I have it to see
Yeah,
if I can get a stick somewhere else, right? And
that's
we're
right.
going to talk about that, why that is or not a good decision according to you.
Yes, sir.
But that's what I used to do, right? And I still do. And because of that, I always wanted to associate myself being a data consultant because I'm like, hey, that is the one that pays the bill. That is the foundation from which everything else is being jump started from.
Yes,
And
sir.
also, it is a pretty good field. and I do like it. I spent 6 7 years in this field. I still want to stay in. Like my wife tells me that, okay, what if you move to coaching? Then you get clients, and then what? Are you going to stop data? I'm like, no, I cannot. I might even work a few days a week. She's like, but where do you have the time? You're going to be doing this and that. And then I'm like, yeah, but I spent so much time in this, George. 7 years of my life.
Yes,
I
sir.
don't want to suddenly stop and then move out of this industry, work in a different industry, and then be left out of the new advancements happening in this industry.
Yes,
So
sir.
how do I combine or make myself feel like, what, both are important and still not lose my identity?
Well, you got to remember something, Ahad. The average millionaire, the average millionaire has 7 streams of income. 7. There are 7 ways that a millionaire, on average, is getting money. Not one. Most people that you and I know, right, usually have one, maybe two. If they're really really trying to become adventurous, 3. Not many people have 6 or 7 that you and I know. And what am I trying to say with that? You don't have to associate yourself with anything, right? You don't have to necessarily identify that I'm only the life coach. I'm only the data consultant. You might be, when depending on your audience and who you're speaking to, your identity may evolve as such. Everywhere I go, everybody knows at this point that I'm a financial coach, but everybody knows I have a wealth of knowledge when it comes to healthcare administration. Well, it's well known, well documented. I've spent more time being a healthcare administrator than I have being a financial coach. But people
Exactly.
identify me as a financial coach, and it's because I have ushered people and have educated those around me of who I am as a as and when what am I associating myself with. But you have to usher that. If you don't give that to people, what you want to be or who you want to be identified as, that's where the disconnect starts. But how you make money and what you get yourself into, listen, there was a gentleman I knew that was he's a well-known YouTuber. And at some point I probably got to meet him at some point, to be honest with you. But well-known YouTuber, investor guy, does a lot of stuff with investing. He talked about how for 2 years he just drove Uber for 2 years. Drove Uber. But people think he drove Uber because he didn't have ends meet. He drove Uber because he was trying to stockpile cash because he foresaw the stock market coming down back in 2022. He anticipated it was going to come down. So he worked Uber for 2 years. 2 years. So if somebody saw him in the street, they're like, "Oh man, you do Uber for a living?" No, 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 no. I'm a YouTuber. I'm a YouTuber that talks about investments. But just because he's doing that doesn't mean that he's necessarily identified as an Uber guy. He just created another stream of income. So for you, you can still do data if you like it. It can still make you money. But even doing that, you're still a life coach if that's who you ultimately aspire to be.
That's quite interesting. I do understand that point of view that you can be a lot. And to be honest, I do understand, yet also be a bit scared about is how when people talk about money or like streams of income, they lose why they're doing what they're doing. So,
Hmm.
for example, if you're doing so many things, you're working a day job, then you're driving Uber in the night, or you're doing something on the weekends, then when are you living? You
Yep.
have 3 kids. I have a newborn, 4 months old.
Oh yeah.
You want to spend time with them. That's why you're
Absolutely.
doing all of this stuff, right? You're
That's
doing
right.
all of that stuff. So some people always forget that, okay, money is a means to an end,
That's right.
right? At least that's my belief, right?
Yep.
It's a cushion, it's a means to an end. But sometimes when they get into this grind, they forget that, George. So how can we make sure to remind them that, oh, you can do tons of things? An average millionaire has 7 streams of income, sure, but those are passive incomes.
That's right.
They're actively not really focusing on it. So
That's
how
right.
do we make that point go home? How do we move from active to passive?
So that's the secret right there. That's the secret right there, right? So exactly to your point, Ahad, 7 streams of income, but I didn't say how they make that income. There's just 7 streams, right? Real estate. So I have real estate, right? I have rental properties that I rent out to folks that every month pay me on the first, right? And then from there, of course, they pay my mortgage, right? For my rental property, and then I'm left with excess beyond measure. And with that money, of course, that's another stream of income. So then, with that money, for example, I've started an investment portfolio that I'm basically using my tenants' money to now make me more money through the investments that I have there. It's not my money I'm putting in, it's their money. So that's making me another money. So now I've literally
Mm.
double compounded money from
Yeah.
an initial investment. So to your point,
Yeah.
the streams of income, to your point, it doesn't have to be necessarily active. Matter of fact, if we're talking about financial freedom, freedom means that also means you have liberty of your time. That you don't have to necessarily hear the alarm go off and then you have to react. We talked about that before we got into this. If you have to go to bed with the alarm on, that means more than likely you're not necessarily in full control of your time. And I'll give you a great example. Though anybody listening now, if your boss tells you you got to report to work at 8 in the morning, you'll have your alarm on, get dressed, whatever you got to do to be work by 8. If the next day the boss says, hey, we have a very important meeting and we need everybody here by 6:30, you got kids, you got the wife, you got obligations and all this. All of a sudden, everybody's got to go to bed a lot earlier. Hey, we got to go to bed earlier because I got to be out no matter what by 5:30 because I have to be. So you're not free of your time, right? So to your point, I had two things. Number one is as you pursue financial freedom, you have to be able to work smart. You have to look for opportunities to create passive streams of income. And we teach that in our community and through our coaching program, different methods. It's not only investing in stocks. Stocks do help, but there's other ways to create a passive income. Number two, the other thing you have to remember is that a lot of times people are feeling that they have to work more because they're trying to catch up to the expenses that are currently in their lives. The amount of money coming out, their debts, the rents, the mortgages, credit card debts, all these things that are piling up in their lives. They feel like they have to, first off, catch up and then supersede that to have extra money coming in. Well, here's the thing. The first course that I mentioned it of the 6 fundamentals, the first one we go through in our coaching program, and anybody that from the financial freedom bills that hears this, they probably already said what it is because they understand how important I believe in it. It's expense management. Manage your expenses because most people don't realize that some of the money that you're looking for right now is either currently being ate, drank, or spent on subscriptions. More than likely one of those three things.
I agree with you because that's exactly what's happening to me. And that's a good segue to go to budgeting, right? So
Yeah.
my wife is more niftier than I am in these things. As I told you, I got lucky, I got blessed to be earning a good amount of money to be comfortable in life.
Yes, sir.
So because of that, I didn't care. I would order out, I would eat out. I'd be like, this is what the money is for. This is what life is for, right? But our expenses for food were
I
ridiculous,
can't imagine.
George, ridiculous. And I always was of the proponent of not reducing your expenses, but increasing your income because I had the liberty to do so. I was like, you know what? I can always pick up a few more classes to teach. I can always do these things. Don't worry about the expense. I got you, wifey. You need to, we'll figure it out.
Yes,
But
sir.
slowly, we're realizing that, okay, even if we make more money, we just eat more because now I am doing double things. So I don't have enough time to cook.
Yes, sir.
So we order out more. And then we suddenly had a realization that okay, eating out might be fun, but it's not necessarily healthy either,
No.
right? So it's like a double whammy right now. You can
That's right.
save money as well as also eat healthy. So because of that, now we're trying in December and we also tried it in October to not eat out at all. And that does significantly reduce your
No,
monthly
I can't even
uh
imagine.
costs. Yeah. But I in principle, George, I don't want to agree to that.
Gotcha.
It works, but I don't want to agree to that
I
because
hear you.
I believe a financially free life is a life in which I go into a store, I go into a restaurant, I don't check my bank account, I don't check any apps, I don't look at the label. I go like, you know what? I want to buy this. It looks nice, it feels nice, let's take it. So I'm against the concept of budgeting or this and that because I'm like, hey, if you're building a free life, then it needs to be like this.
Yes.
The people who are in the fire movement, for example,
Yep.
you hear crazy stories.
Oh yeah.
They trade haircuts. They do barter systems. They work on a very extremely lean lifestyle.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, but they're like, we're free. I'm like, are
Correct.
you?
They're not.
Are you?
Not in my opinion, at least.
Yeah. So what are your thoughts on that?
So a few things. So that lifestyle you're trying to get to, of to be able to swipe and do whatever you have to do, goes back to the reason why my name, the name of the program is called the Constructor, right? You have to build that. You just don't walk into a house and the house is already built and established, right? It's a plain terrain land, right? It needs to be tilled. It needs to be, padded up, the whole thing. You then you gotta start putting the foundation on the house. You gotta there's a process to that. And at the end of the day, Ahad, most people don't realize, and sometimes or not realize, they do realize, sometimes they forget. And I'm gonna go back to another point you mentioned earlier. Number one is that it took all of us time to get to wherever we find ourselves in our financial journey today. Whether you're drowning in debt, whether you're not making ends meet, whether you're struggling, it took you time to get here. You didn't just wake up and then all of a sudden I'm here. No. It was a journey. It was a journey of swiping the card. It was a journey of making poor decisions. It was a journey to get to where you are today. So it took you time to get where you are today. You have to give yourself time to get out of where you were today. And it all starts with planting seeds, man. You plant seeds. And the thing is that you plant seeds, and then based off of the seeds you plant, the fruit comes out. So you plant orange seeds, you're gonna get orange fruit. You plant apple seeds, you're gonna get the apple. We get that. So here's the thing. You might be planting now. You may have planted orange seeds for a long period of time, and now oranges are coming out. But you're saying, man, I want some apples. Okay, no problem. You plant the apple seeds. But the oranges are out and you've planted apple seeds. So you're eating oranges while the apple seeds are in there. And here's the thing. You have to, if you plan to eat the apple fruit, you need to be prepared to eat oranges for a period of time until the seeds of the apples produce the fruit.
Oh
Then
my.
with that, you're going to get your apples later on. But most people aren't patient enough to wait that out because they forget that they planted the what seeds? The orange seeds. And because you planted the orange seeds, you want to skip to the apple fruit. Not bypassing that the orange fruit comes first, the apple seeds come next, watering of the seeds, air and time,
Effort. Yeah,
the whole
yeah, yeah.
thing to get the apple fruit.
It's what's funny about this story is you're talking in a financial sense,
Yeah.
which is completely viable. But I'm talking about this from a health point of view. Like
Yep.
that's what the story is coming into my head. And it's so annoying, George, that you start a workout and you do it for 2 weeks and you don't see any progress.
Yep.
Or sometimes you even are gaining weight. And you're so annoyed. You're like, what is happening? And you're like, yeah, but because 2 weeks earlier, before you started this thing, you were eating like a fucking goblin.
Right.
So you will have to wait till that process ends from your body for that thing to come out. But no one has the patience for it. I personally don't have the patience for it. I look at my weight scale every single day. I'm like, hey, I'm not losing weight. Fuck it. I'm just gonna
I'm going
have
to the
something
next
else
thing.
now. I'm gonna
Yeah.
go and get the next ice cream. And I think finance is the same. Every month you look at the budget. You're like, I need to stay under X thousand, right? And you try and you try and you try, and sometimes you go a little bit up, and then you go like, you don't say like, okay, now this has to come from somewhere. And the next month I have to reduce it by X, by
Right.
Y that came up. But no, I'll still try to stay under X. And you're like, yeah, great, but what about that Y of a difference? Where does that come
Yes,
from?
sir.
And then the next month again you go a little bit up. And then you're like, it's okay, it's just a couple of hundred. And then that keeps going and going, and suddenly you don't have any savings because every month you were up by Y and
Yes,
you
sir.
never compensated for that.
Yes, sir.
So now you're out of Y multiplied by $12,000, whatever the case,
That's right.
right? And it's so confusing how finance impacts you so much that you try to ignore these little things. So my next question is about what you do in your expense reports and analysis and reviews that you do in your coaching practice. Are people receptive to looking at the numbers and the reports? Because I've been doing this now for a whole year, and every month I feel like, you know what, I don't want to do it. I have this wonderful app that connects to all of my bank accounts, and it gives me all the beautiful things in a beautiful pie chart.
Yep.
And but the only thing I have to do is every month or every week I have to go and assign the right categories to everything,
That's right.
so that I know, okay, this was food, this was this was that,
Gas,
and then it
utility.
gives me.
Right.
But it's so difficult, and I do get the numbers at the end of the day, George. I tell my wife about this, but then we don't do anything about it. Like next month we're going to try again. So
Sure.
what is stopping us from taking these insights and these reports and making it useful for our financial journey?
Sure. Before we answer that question, I want to go back on one quick thing you mentioned earlier, just real quick, just before we drift off of it. You talked about how your expenses were going up, and so you started doubling up on your income, saying that I need to make more income, right? Here's the thing, and this is a free one for everybody listening to this. And first of all, I hope everybody's enjoying this conversation so far. But this is a free one for everyone here. In our coaching program, we talk about this all the time. And again, if anybody's listening to this, they know what I'm going to say next. The only thing I care about, or we care about in the financial freedom builders community, is net worth. It's the only thing we care about. And net worth is an equation. Net worth equals your total income your net income minus your total expenses. Okay. And that's an equation, right? So that means there's two ways that we can influence the difference. You can either increase your net income, like you mentioned, but that requires a lot of times activity. You need to give up more time, but time is your most valuable asset. It's not money, it's time. Time is all of our most valuable asset. So we have to protect our most valuable asset at all costs. Because right now, every day, usually Monday through Friday, you are surrendering 40 of your most precious hours of your most valuable asset to an institution. And in return, they're giving you what's deemed security in this check. But here's the thing, and sometimes all of us feel like it's secure, right? The full-time job. If they have plans to lay off people, they're not going to let you know with advance notice so that you're prepared, so that you feel safe. They're just going to cut you and let you go. So you have to protect your time, right? So that's the net income. Or you can decrease your total expenses. And that's what we talked about. So you may not necessarily have to make more money to make more money. Okay. That's a very important thing for everybody to think, to remember. That's financial literacy. That's stuff that the wealthy have figured out, that you don't necessarily have to make more money to make more money. And I encourage everybody to think about that for a while and figure out, okay, what do I have to do to make that happen? That I can make more money without using more of my time. Now, going back to your original question about the consistency and how do you stay disciplined and all that. Look, um, one thing I commend, and I commend everybody that's in this community, is that they took a step forward, but they understood where they found themselves today. Okay. I was there. I found myself in a similar situation about a decade ago. I was working really hard, making decent money, barely making ends meet. I had my oldest son at the time, and we were struggling to really make ends meet. Now, this is somebody had a finance background, knew kind of what he was doing, and it just wasn't working out. My wife was staying with my son; she wasn't working, and I made a decent enough money. Point is that I was getting nowhere fast, very fast, and I remember how I felt, man. I remember how frustrated and defeated I felt sometimes. I'm like, man, like I'm burning on both ends of the candle. And I'm like, we're not getting anywhere fast. And I'm like, but I know we should be further along, not because of somebody else or what my colleagues and friends were doing. It's because we were making a decent income, but we were not really getting further along than we should have. And I made a decision at that time to get some support. Found somebody I could trust to give me sound financial advice. This is a finance guy asking somebody else to give me financial advice. And it was one of the best decisions I ever made, man, because then he illuminated my eyes to stuff that I wasn't seeing. As good as I was, I had blind spots. And when I was illuminated to my blind spots, it changed everything. And then things just started snowballing and figuring out fast. So to those in my community that are involved, I commend them for taking the step forward to getting help, but finding someone that they can trust. Okay. We're living times, you can't trust everybody, man. There's scams all over the place, man. You can't trust people. You can't find genuine. We run time now where people aren't real. And I was blessed that folks started trusting in me and saw the good that what I was doing, and they're seeing that outcome on their end because they were struggling to find consistency. So for you, I would say, Ahad, is a um, first off, be on the same page with your wife that, hey, this is the plan, and hold each other accountable, right? This is what we said we're going to do, and this is how we move forward, right? Again, the community is power in community. That community is two, but there's power in being in more than one, right? But the other thing is that kind of where I was 10 years ago, if you need additional accountability, or if you think there might be a blind spot, or you want somebody to observe there's a blind spot, there's value in finding that support. And it doesn't make you any more inferior or less than. Sometimes that becomes a catalyst for your level up because you invested in yourself. So those are my thoughts on that.
I agree with you. Really, really, especially on this accountability aspect that works through everything, right?
Oh,
Every aspect of coaching, in goal setting, in time management, and anything. You're
correct.
mostly focused on accountability. You're like, hey, if I can figure out a way to just stick to my habits, because what you said to me, what really really resonated with me was, I'm not getting anywhere fast enough, and that's where most of my money is being wasted on George, because I'm like, the amount of money I'm earning, the decent amount of money that I'm earning, I don't know if it's going to be there tomorrow.
Correct.
I don't know if it's going to be there next week, but I know it's here now. So I can either save it up, put it in a bank account, or put it in an investment vehicle, and just be like, you know what, I'm playing it safe, or I can try to risk it and see if I can make something out of it. That's the new business that I want to start on Agile. It could be the forex things that I've tried out, and frankly, none of it worked so far, right? But the question is, am I doing it correctly? And this is because I think not just me, but anyone who's listening to this might have also felt the same thing, that, you know what, I'm earning X dollars, but I don't want to wait that long.
Correct.
So is the answer, it's no, you need to learn to wait, Ahad, because that's life. You have to wait no matter what. I've been doing this for 12 years, doing this business for 3 years, and maybe still I am like, still my main job is funding most of it, for example. Like, I'm not speaking for you, but like, for example, right? Or you could be like, no, you can do it fast, but there's a better way. What is that way? And how can we make it happen? Because all I see is money going away,
Yeah.
getting eaten up by subscriptions and services and all of that stuff that is needed to make things run. And then after that, no return. And you're
Yeah.
like, but hey, why is this happening? Because it's very easy once you get real estate properties. Like, it's not like the States. In
Yeah.
the States, it's relatively, I'm not from the States, so I can't speak for the States, but relatively easier to get into the real estate business, right? You get a mortgage, you do the thing, and you move on. Here, for example, in Holland, you're not allowed that. If you have one house, you're not allowed to get another on a mortgage till you pay off the first one. If you do, you have to pay extra. You don't pay the interest of an individual. You pay the interest of a business, because
Wow.
if you're taking another one, that means you're doing it to rent it out.
Yes, sir.
That means it's not for personal use anymore.
That's right.
So you have to pay corporate taxes. You have to pay corporate stuff on it, which in the US you don't have to, because you can just keep buying houses and you're like, you know what, it's my thing. So due to those reasons, wealth through these things, leverage,
Yep.
is a bit difficult. So I get that it can work for people in North America, but what do you think about these things of, do we need to be fast? Is there a better way to be fast? Or if we need to be slow, how can we be slow and still stay accountable on the journey that we're going on?
Yeah, and you said the word that I was going to go on to. It's exactly the last word you said, Ahad. Journey, man. It's a journey. It's a journey. Journey to financial freedom. And so, with the journey, yeah, there are times, right, where we're walking. There are times where we can jog. Sometimes we can catch a sprint, right? But you can't sprint the journey. You're gonna burn out. You're gonna burn out at some point, right? You can jog for a while. You'll get tired eventually. Legs will get tired, and then you can't walk forever either, because it's gonna take you forever to get over there, right? So
Exactly.
it's the melting pot of understanding that there will be moments we can walk, there'll be moments we can jog, and there'll be moments we can sprint. And it's all about understanding the timing of those things, man. And that's the secret I will tell you with that. First of all, you can't have your legs burn out on you. You get your legs get tired, you're done. You're done moving, right? Now you need to sit. You gotta pause. You gotta do whatever you gotta do. Here's the thing: when you walk, the you have to keep moving forward. That's where the fundamentals come into place. Your expenses are in order. You're saving, you're doing the fundamental things that are moving you forward little by little. What will be a version of jogging? Jogging is you're investing money. Now you kind of have a little pace to it. You're investing in the right things, the right companies, the right portfolios, ETFs. You're investing in the right things and being patient about it. Understand that's not just going to go shoot to the moon one day to the other. It's going to take you some time, but it's going to move you a lot faster than just putting the money in the savings account. Savings account, obviously with inflation and the rates and all that stuff, it's gone up a little bit, but that's not going to beat the stock market, man. And that's not going to beat investing. That's never going to beat that over the course of a 5 or 10 year period. It's never going to happen. So now you're investing. So you got savings, right? You're managing your expenses. Now you're moving up. You're investing. Then you figure out accelerators. This is what you call speculative investments, right? And it does not always have to be speculative. But for example, you mentioned real estate. If you can get into some real estate, that's great. Some other speculative stuff, crypto. Crypto is very speculative and there is a lot of risk. But crypto sometimes can get you moving a lot further. There was just a thing I read a couple days ago that Bitcoin in 2012 on Thanksgiving Day was worth, I want to say, and I could be wrong, something around maybe like $70. Bitcoin on Thanksgiving Day this year, just a couple days ago, was $37,000. Now, nobody knew for sure that it was going to be something that works. Nobody knows the future. But investing sometimes in speculative, right? All you just need is 1 or 2 or 3 to hit. And then all of a sudden, you've gone on a full-on sprint, even though you're still jogging and you're still walking, but now some of your sprints are going. But those are speculative. So you should not be over allocating yourself to be trying to swing on a home run.
Because you will lose money, right?
Oh, no, you can lose all your money. And then all of a sudden, now you're going backwards. So you got to think of it more like a pyramid. Your expenses, your savings, all those things are your fundamentals. This is what you're putting the majority of your money into your stability. The next level up is your investing, because you want to be invested, but you shouldn't be more invested than you should be in your savings. You should not be out of sorts, because if you're over investing and you lose your job and you don't got a savings, it don't matter that you have 15,000 shares of Apple unless you're going to sell them, right? What does it do for you unless you're going to sell it? And then the speculative, although that's at the top, that should be the smallest allocation, but you do want that, because if you get a couple of those things, that becomes a major catalyst to shoot you forward. But you understand that this is a small allocation because it's speculative. I won't get it right more often than not. Think of it like a baseball analogy. I don't know if you guys, I know baseball is more of something in the United States, but somebody in the United States, let's say a baseball player, goes to bat 10 times. And they strike out 7 times and they get 3 singles out of the 10. So they hit the ball 3 times and they struck out 7 times. In baseball, you're batting 300. That person would be an all-star in the Major League Baseball, an all-star hitting the ball 3 out of 10 times. What am I trying to say? With a speculative, man, you only need a couple of them and you're good and you're golden. You don't always have to hit it. In baseball, you hit 3 out of 10. You are an all-star player in baseball, hitting 3 out of 10. So that's
30%.
That would be what I would tell you for that.
Yeah, no, I think that's really good advice, because that's the biggest problem. You try to run after it, you see some results, and you go like, you know what? Bitcoin is going up now, and I only have like 1,000 in it. What if I put 10,000 in it? It's gonna become like, oh my god, I'm gonna earn so much money. And then when you put it and it crashes, and you go like, oh my god, crypto is a scam. Yeah, it is. It's not a scam, but it is a wild, wild west.
It is wild.
And in the wild, wild west is where you make money, or where you lose money, because by the time it's regulated, by the time it becomes as good as the stock market, then you're again looking at the same returns of 8%, 6% a year.
Yes, sir.
So you're not going to be looking at 50% here, 100% anymore. So if you want that big shot, it comes with more risk. You know, the risk to reward thing is basic finance, right? The risk to reward, the more you risk, the better the reward can get. Yeah. And that's why saving has zero risk because you're putting it in your bank
That's
account.
right.
Investing has a certain amount of risk because you're trying, but if you go with the indexes, you're relatively safe because they're following the market.
Correct.
Then you're like, okay, I want to go into derivatives, or I want to go into options, or I want
Options.
to go into
Correct.
crypto, I want to go into so many things, futures,
Yep.
and that becomes dangerous because
Yes, sir.
you're like, you know what? You need to know these
Yes,
things,
sir.
or else you're screwed. And that's what happened to me as well. The way I got exposed to finance for forex trading was through options trading.
Okay.
All I had to predict was in the next 5 minutes will it go up or down, and I had so much fun. I was like, this shit is easy,
Yeah.
but then I lost so much money on it because you cannot know
No.
in any way where in the next 5 minutes it's going. It's gambling.
Correct.
It's like trying to predict the next best team.
Correct.
You don't know. It's just, if it's a fun or if it's a certain amount of your portfolio, it's fine.
That's right.
So I do really, really like that. But we are running out of time, so I want to close it in,
Very good.
and I want to close it in with one final question that I always struggle with, George. I don't see myself not working, even if you have a cushion of money. I don't know how I would feel just not working. You're leaving money on the table.
Agreed.
That's one of the reasons I overexerted myself a lot in this last few years,
Mhm.
because my wife would be like, "Why are you doing these so many things? The doubling of the incomes." I'm like, "Yeah, because if people are willing to offer me and I can double on top of what I'm doing right now, yes, it might cost me a little bit more time, but
Yep.
the income is more than the time being cost. So I'm leaving money on the table. Why should I do that?"
That's right.
So how do I get out of that mindset that, yeah, it's okay if I don't have a job as long as the money keeps coming in somehow?
Yeah. So I'm with you on this one though. I would have to say I'm you and I are very aligned on this one. I listen, financial freedom to me, let me give you my definition of financial freedom. Again, everybody has their definition. My financial freedom to me is that I have no obligation with time nor money to be able to operate my life. No obligation. I don't have to give my time to a job. I don't have to pay something, a debt or whatever the case may be. Those things, if I have the liberty to do what I choose on my terms, then I'm financially free. That's my definition. That doesn't mean I don't want to work. That doesn't mean I don't want to keep doing stuff. That doesn't mean I want to keep reinventing myself. Because at the end of the day, and then this is for everybody, this one's for you too. The world needs the gift that you have. Or let me expound on that. The world needs the gifts that you have. So what am I trying to say? Just because you don't have to work, right, doesn't mean that you stop giving the world the gifts that you have, because the world still needs it. So you've got to find ways to keep reinventing yourself as you keep evolving in life. Finance is a thing that I do, right? But I care about people, so maybe I reinvent myself in that, right? Getting more involved doing mission work and doing things. You keep reinventing yourself, man. We don't just stop working because we've got the money, we're done. You still have a lot to offer to the world. All of us do. And so it's a detriment to our world if we stop giving the world the gifts that we have and that we've been blessed with. So I would never stop working. And it's not necessarily because I have to work. I just stop working. I just don't necessarily have to go to work and give my time to somebody if I choose not to.
I understand that. And I think that's wonderful advice. I will keep that earmarked because I have to take this next year, as I told you, the year of vitality. I have to take back my time, put some workout time along, because I hear you coming into the podcast after a good session at the gym. Well, I just ate like one large pizza of Papa John's with an ice. So
Papa
I
John's is
would
good
really want.
though. Papa John's is good. Not
Yeah,
a sponsor, but they're
it
good.
they're good. They're good indeed. So I would like to leave it at that. Before we leave, anything you want to add to our conversation, George?
No, I think one last thing I will just leave for everybody is everybody knows, right, what they need to do. I hear that a lot. I know, yeah, I know what I need to do. I know what I should be doing. But if you're not doing something about what you know, it's really of no value to yourself at all, right? So take action on the things that you know, and take action on the things that you don't know. Seek guidance, seek counsel, seek the support you need so that you can then do what you need to do. Whether you already know what you need to do or you are missing elements on things that you should be doing, take action. And I encourage everybody to take action, because most people are very passive and just sitting on the sidelines waiting for something to happen. That will never happen if you don't take action. So I encourage everybody to take action.
Great. Thank you so much, George, for your time. The Financial Constructor, ladies and gentlemen, all the links will be in the show notes if you want to check out his website, see his program, join his community. And I hope you guys learned as much as I did today. I think this was a lot of fun. George, thank you so much for coming.
Likewise. We'll talk soon, man. Appreciate the time.
Yes, talk to you later. And thank you, everyone else, for listening. I hope you know more today than you did yesterday. Take care and bye bye. I just want to give you guys a heads up. The roundtable is beginning for January 2024. The roundtable is a mastermind group where I try to bring like minded yet cross functional people in one room under my facilitation, where we will go through goals, ideas, obstacles, even debates where people are interested about something. They want to learn something from everyone else in the group and basically become a better version of themselves. I'm really, really enthusiastic about this project, and I'm really looking forward to seeing any one of you who wants to sign up and be part of the process. The link is on the website, of course, to sign up. And if you go to our Instagram or any of our social media links, you will see the link as well. It is also here below in the show notes. So if you're interested, just click the link, fill out the form, and I will catch you in an introductory call. Thank you so much for listening. I'll catch you next time.